Hi, everybody. Welcome to this special edition of Beyond the Trailer Park. Yes, I know this is really weird. It's Friday and it's an afternoon and I'm awake. That doesn't happen very often. But for Hemant, I will do that. So, of course, joining me from Pennsylvania, as always, is Beth. How's it going over there in the middle of the day? You let me know when you wake up.
Out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm usually taking my pre-work nap right now, but as you said, I mean, I'm kind of giddy as a schoolgirl over here because if anybody follows my blog, Hemant is one of my go-to people for source material. I appreciate your blog very much so.
Thanks.
So, coming Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that was it.
Okay, so coming to us all the way from the Windy City, we have, of course, the Friendly Atheist, Hemant Mehta. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. It's our pleasure. Is it windy there now? I know it's cold here.
It's cold, and it was rainy yesterday, so it's unpleasant.
You're actually more north than I am.
Is that really?
Yes, I'm Seattle is actually, like, all of Washington State is more north than me.
Okay.
So, yes, we're not quite as cold, but I just came back from 2 weeks in Georgia, so I'm cold.
Oh, yeah. Why did you come back? Well, it's Georgia. I mean, I can kind of...
Hurricane, I was in Savannah.
Yeah.
Our other co-host, who unfortunately had to work today, she lives in Savannah, and I was down visiting her and her husband as they had a wedding and stuff. So that was all fun.
Yeah.
We kind of raced the hurricane back up the coast on the way back. So, but yes.
Nice. Hopefully everyone's safe and sound and good.
Yes, we were a little concerned, but they had to evacuate, but they got home and they still have an apartment and a dry apartment and all of that. So,
good.
Yay!
Yes,
and no one prayed for it either. Funny that.
Yeah.
I would have laughed. There's a church right outside their apartment. If that had gotten flattened, I kind of would have a little bit, but you know. So, of course, many people know you. You do your Patheos blog, The Friendly Atheist. You've got your YouTube channel, all kinds of fun stuff. So, but a lot of people don't know a lot about you and where you came from and all of that. And you used to belong to a religion that I know most Canadians don't know about, and I don't think very many Americans know about, called Jainism. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, so Jainism is an Indian religion. It's a really old religion, and I guess if you need to know anything about Jainism, it's that it preaches nonviolence. So that actually sounds great, right? Like,
yes,
I think even Sam Harris, who has, criticized moderate religions too, has said something like, if we were all fundamentalist Jains, the world would actually be just fine, right? Because we're not hurting anybody. Here's where I kind of got off path from that. And by the way, that also means Jains are vegetarian, if not, very serious vegetarians. Stereotypically, fundamentalist Jains kind of like wear a cloth over their mouth, so they're not even hurting bacteria. They'll sweep the ground.
They don't wear clothes either.
Some of them. The sect I grew up in, that wasn't my sect. Right. So I never experienced that growing up. I didn't know anybody who did. So that to me is like, even that weirds me out a little bit. I don't know anyone like that. But where I kind of part ways with them is they believe in heaven and hell and karma and reincarnation. And, I mean, we've seen this sometimes in the news. Sometimes their nonviolence or their ideas of how to kind of take away all the material forces in the world that are bad is to fast and kind of put yourself separate from the earth. And, I mean, there was a story in the news, like, in the past week where some girl, like, fasted for 2 months or something straight and then died. Huh, can you believe it?
Oh, funny.
Yeah. So, I mean, these beliefs, even if it's nonviolent, they can be harmful, and that's a problem, too.
Oh, absolutely. So are they okay with things like science and medicine, or did they kind of eschew that as well?
Yeah, no, they've been, as far as I know, they're pretty good about science and medicine, and I mean, hell, everyone I know is a friggin' doctor anyway. So I mean, that's never been an issue. But I will say that when I was at Jane, it's not like we spent a lot of time talking about science or anything, but I never had any reason to think they opposed evolution or the Big Bang or anything like that.
Other than like nonviolence and not trying not to hurt anything, do they have any other like core tenets, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, you're not supposed to be possessive. Like, don't worry about material goods. When we say nonviolent, that doesn't just mean physically, but don't have any impure thoughts, things like that. You're supposed to be celibate until marriage, things like that as well. Obviously, when I was 12 years old or whatever, when I knew this stuff and growing up, most of these things didn't matter that much to me.
Right.
But those are the kind of bigger tenets that I remember from growing up. How much of that is theologically accurate, I don't know, but that's kind of the culture I grew up in.
It sounds like there's a tiny bit of crossover with Buddhism too, because they've got the whole, you know, think pure and think right and actions and all of that sort of.
Yeah, there's some overlap when it comes to like reincarnation and karma too with other religions. So I don't know which one came first, if we did or they did or whatever, but yeah, there's some overlap for sure.
Okay, that's so. What you said, of course, that the heaven and hell and reincarnation and karma and all that became a non-starter. How did you arrive at that? Was that something that you just kind of thought out over time, or was there something? It
happened fast. My family moved, which was kind of devastating when I was a kid, and that just kind of got me wondering, like, why would God do this to me? I didn't lose my faith suddenly because of that, but it got me questioning things that I'd never questioned before. And when you start looking this stuff up for the first time, I think only like a month before I realized, wait, it's not just that Jainism is wrong about all this stuff, like religion is wrong about all this stuff. So it was only like a month or two before I called myself an atheist, though I probably didn't use that word. I didn't know what that word meant maybe, but I stopped believing in any of that supernatural stuff.
Oh, poor Beth. We have this thing. I became an atheist at 17 very quickly as well, from a devout Christian.
Overnight.
Yeah, and Beth and I sort of have this thing. It took her 10 years.
Yeah, no, everyone comes from a different place, right? But for me, I think I was so intrigued by these ideas that I'd never thought about before that, you know, you fall down the rabbit hole and you see where it ends up, and it just led to atheism not just being right for me, but like, oh, how do other people not realize this? And I became really passionate about it.
I had the same thing. I kind of went, I've discovered the secret of the world, you know, and I'm like, I have to tell people. And I was very disappointed that no one wanted to know. I didn't quite understand.
You sound very much like a Christian evangelist, by the way. I mean, we all do, right? When we find the truth, and now you want to tell everybody, and no one wants to do it. Yeah.
I had fallen into Calvinists that you were supposed to, you know, proselytize and all that. So it makes sense. Yep. So you were a high school math teacher.
I was.
How do you get from math teacher to atheist activist and blogger and YouTuber and all of that?
You know, it actually started before. So here's the quick rundown. Sure. I was an atheist then in high school and college, and I started an atheist group in college. And my plan was to become a doctor. And so I actually went to medical school. Love it. And so I took some time off. And in that, I basically finished my M1 year of med school, took a year off. And in that year off, while I was like, what else could I do? Because I'm not sure if I want to do this. I'll go get my teaching certification. But, you know, that was class at night while I was doing some odd jobs during the day. And I stumbled upon this thing where I'm like, long story short, I quote unquote sold my soul on eBay while all this was going on. And I got some attention for it. And I had an opportunity to write a book about an atheist visiting churches for the first time.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was one of those fluke things that cool opportunity. No one's going to care like months from now or whatever. But once I did that, I'm like, I started blogging for that experiment. And I'm like, I kind of like this quick feedback that you get when you talk about religion.
Mm-hmm.
And the commenters were pretty cool too. Like they weren't crazy or anything.
Oh, that's good.
So, yeah. So even though I got my teaching certification and I began teaching about a year, maybe I think that's right. Like before I started teaching, I had started my own blog where I talked about this stuff. And throughout the 7 years that I was teaching, I just kind of kept doing that too. And it started to take on kind of a bigger role over the years. And by the time a couple years ago, I'm like, I think I can do this full time and not be homeless. And so a couple of years ago, I decided to, I didn't have any kids. I'm like, I should just try to make that jump now. Because if it doesn't work, I can still go back to teaching. Like, I still have my certification. I'm still good if I want to go back.
Yeah.
For another couple of years right now. So decided to take the plunge a couple of years ago. So far, so good. But yeah, that's kind of, it wasn't that I went from being a math teacher to doing this, because it would be really dumb to say I'm going to quit teaching to become a blogger. Yeah. But it's one of those things that, you have a hobby on the side and it kind of takes over. And I just decided to make the switch at some point.
Excellent. We lost Beth there, but she'll be back in a minute. Her internet's kind of wonky in the mountains of Pennsylvania there. But so you were blogging, and then did you start the YouTube channel at the same time or after?
Yeah, so the YouTube channel, I don't remember when that started. It might have been 2 to 3 years ago now. But basically, a professor at a local college said he does film. He actually taught classes on YouTube. And he said, I want to make a documentary about young atheists. And this is something I've written a lot about. I've worked with the Secular Student Alliance. I know young atheist issues well. And so he said, can I basically film you? I don't know what I'm going to do with the footage yet, but let me ask you some basic questions, get you on camera answering them. And without really knowing what he was going to do with the footage, I mean, I liked the guy. He seemed really nice. We met, we taped some stuff. And he ended up just taking those clips and putting them on this Atheist Voice channel that he started. And people started watching them, which surprised me because it's not like we advertised this so much. Maybe I posted a link on my website. Yeah. But I realized that a lot of young people, the things you and I probably Googled when we got the chance to or looked up in the library, a lot of young people are looking up on YouTube. So like, what do you do if there's no God? Or what if you don't believe in this stuff? Or how should I come out to my parents? Excuse me. I would have gone on Google. They're going on YouTube to answer it. And there was like very little content available for that. So they were coming across our videos. Yeah. And so I think my partner here realized we should just do this again. Let me ask you some more questions. You could. He kind of sent me the things he wanted to talk about. I prepped some stuff in advance, and we taped it again. And at some point, it's like, well, let me try scripting this out a little more. Let me have some more fun with this. One video in particular, we made like 15 things you shouldn't say to an atheist, went really viral.
That's the one that I actually found. Now,
yeah, a lot of people saw that one, to my surprise. I didn't realize it would be that big.
And the funny thing is, like, I've been an atheist for 27 years. There was no internet, I did that all on my own. And it wasn't until I was in my 30s when the internet kind of came around and I started, what is there out there about this stuff, Yeah. And at one point, I don't even know how I found it. I think it might have been a suggestion or something. I'm like, oh, what are these questions? I'm like, hey, that guy sounds pretty cool. And
what's funny? It's been like a couple of years. I still get on Facebook and email, people will send me responses to all of these videos, which is kind of amusing. I'm like, they're not a debate. It's a rhetorical thing. You don't have to answer them. But all right. But yeah, that video in particular kind of really took off. And so since then, I mean, the guy actually, the partner that I worked with on these things, he actually moved away to teach somewhere else, but we still work together years later on these videos where now it's to the point where I just kind of film a bunch of them at a time, send him the raw footage. He kind of puts it together, edits everything, and puts them up on YouTube.
Magic.
So, yeah.
I need somebody to do that for me.
I know. I don't think it's something I could have done on my own, but the partnership works really well there because I hate doing the video editing. So
I do all my own stuff, unfortunately. But hey, maybe someday I'll rate an assistant. I don't know.
It's all good. Yeah.
So, and you're still involved with school. We talked about that when we met, that you are, it's a debate group, I believe, is it not?
Yeah, we are. This is actually one of our shirts. Yeah, I coach a public speaking, forensics, whoever knows what that stuff is. So it's like competitive public speaking. So that is something I did in high school. That's something I've coached ever since I was teaching. And even though I'm not teaching in the school anymore, I don't think anyone wants to coach like 100 kids for very little money, so they let me stay on. So, and I love it. So it's fun. So I'm heading there after this to go.
Excellent. I know. I love debating.
Yeah.
Last night I actually drove to. I'm an hour from Toronto. I attend a counter apologetics dinner once a month where. It's hosted by a human rights lawyer, actually.
Oh, nice.
A friend of mine, and nothing beats getting to debate with a lawyer. Let me tell you.
Well, it's really fun. I mean, getting to hear some of these. I mean, they're 14 to 18 years old, basically, and when they talk about politics or whatever issues it is that they end up writing about, the ones who turn out to be really good. I mean, man, they're impressive. And I've done this long enough now that a lot of the kids I coached are either graduated from college, done with grad school. One of them I know is working on Capitol Hill. I mean, some of them are doctors, lawyers. I mean, it's really neat to see what they've done because if you can speak, if you know how to speak effectively, there's so much you can do. So it's really neat.
Absolutely. Oh, it's great too that you put so much effort into supporting the youth. That's something I think is really important to me because I became an atheist as a teenager. I was lucky in that I live somewhere where that's a non-issue, but there's so many kids out there where it is such a huge deal where, you know, they could get thrown out of their homes and disowned, and there's so many terrible things. And I think it's so important to encourage those youth and to, you know, understanding themselves and understanding what they believe or what they don't believe. And it's so important.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not just a awesome program for them. I mean, if I didn't have that too, I mean, it would just be me and the internet all day, and I need some human contact, so they're awesome.
Absolutely. So, and I know Beth has kind of popped in and out. She says she's lost her audio, so she might not say too much, but she's here in spirit. She's waving. But so I kind of been, you know, following the blog a bit there, and you've written so much about so many things. Is there some favorites or some really whack stuff that you've come across or great sort of stories?
You know, there's a bunch of great stories, but what's always interesting is when after doing this for so many years, you still hear people saying or doing things that shock you. So today, for example, we posted a video where, what was it? It was a student from South Africa talking about why science is some like Western conspiracy or something, and we needed to include supernatural nonsense because otherwise,
I believe it was.
What was it?
Black magic. Yeah,
we need to include black magic. Otherwise, we're like not being tolerant and inclusive of her people. I mean, it's I'm used to the hypocrisy. I'm used to politics and creationism and everything. But every now and then you hear something totally out of left field. Those are always fun. It's always fun to cover stories no one else has. You hate just repeating what everyone else is already talking about. So those aren't nearly as fun as when you can break a story or when you can expose something that you know no one has seen yet.
Has there been anybody that you've written about that's really like gone ape over it or, you know, harassed you or anything?
I haven't gotten that much harassment. I mean, I've gotten a lot of mail. I've gotten a lot of I've gotten some horrible messages, but I'm scared per se. But usually, I mean, if we're insulting anyone, I'm not out to try to ruin someone's life. So, I mean, if you make fun of someone, it's like a political figure, a public figure or something. And if it's possible to, if I think it would be interesting enough to get their perspective and I can try to reach out to them, I do that too. So recently we've covered a story about a homeless shelter, a Christian-run homeless shelter that serves food, but they had to shut down their food services because a church across the street complained about it, which seems very hypocritical again. But I had a chance to talk to someone from the church. I had a chance to talk to the people at the food ministry, trying to sort through these issues. And again, they were nice and they were very forthright about where they were coming from and everything. So
why would they do that?
I'm not looking to try to like take someone down just because they're religious. That's not
and you are the friendly atheist, I have to say, you know.
I don't know if I'm friendly anymore, but I'm not trying to be a jerk to people for the sake of being a jerk. I want to figure out what's going on. I mean, for example, this Christian food ministry, I have no desire trying to say they're Christian, so I don't like them, or they're proselytizing while serving food. They're doing something really good. I wish more atheists would do it. That's different from like a politician who wants to ignore climate change because God's going to rapture us all. That's a totally different story. So my focus has shifted.
So why would the church object to the other group giving out food? The
story that they said to the media was basically some of the homeless people were getting the food, throwing it on the streets, creating something of a safety issue. They were out on the streets and like defecating, urinating on the streets, taking off their clothes in the middle of the road. It was disturbing a lot of the church members. That's why they asked that the food services be moved somewhere else. The food pantry basically said, that's not true. We actually, if there's any throwing of food, we have volunteers that pick it up, by the way. But they don't really do the things that the church was accusing them of. In any case, they found a new home. The food service is back up and running. And the church says they're going to work with them to make it work. So whatever.
Like, even if there was somebody acting crazy in the middle of the street, if you're truly, you know, putting your money behind your Bible there, you would be loving them and, you know, hey, can I pick up your clothes for you? You know, that to me.
Or at the very least, don't get in the way of them getting food.
Yeah. It seems.
But, and that was the thing. I heard the story from another source, like an NPR story. And I posted about it because it sounded hypocritical. And then I heard from the pastor or like a pastor or leadership of the church. Then I heard from the food pantry people. And then I talked again to the church people. I mean, it's a very much a he said, she said. I didn't realize I was getting in the middle of a shitstorm, but apparently I was.
Well, I'm sure once one of them found out, hey, this guy, this group's getting, you know, press from whoever, written about, well, hey, we need our story and we better.
Well, they wanted to set the record straight, right? Because the church was looking bad. So the church reached out and said, that's not the story. But then the food pantry's like, no, that was the story. They're lying to you. It's kind of funny.
Lying for Jesus, you know. That's always acceptable on some level. I don't quite understand that either.
That is right.
So is there a story or that you would love to do, or somebody that you would love to talk to?
There's a ton of people I'd love to talk to. They don't always respond to my emails, even though I've reached out to a bunch of people for the podcast, for example, and they'll just not write back or say they're not interested. But basically, I mean, again, it's anytime I can cover something that I'm not seeing covered anywhere else, I'm really happy. That's the story I like to cover. Again, if that's not obvious, I'm way less interested in turning people into atheists. I think that's a byproduct when you talk about this stuff.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I don't care so much about here's the argument against religion. It's more about like, here's how it plays out in the real world. And if that makes you an atheist, so be it. So I don't know, a lot of the politics stuff, other people cover politics really well.
Yeah, we don't talk about that much on the show either. I'm like covered to death.
Right.
I'm Canadian and I was sick of your election about a year and a half ago.
Join the club. One more month. But yeah, that's exactly. I don't need to cover stories that have been covered to death everywhere else. So can you cover anything else that's not being covered? That's what I want to do.
Excellent. And so what do you have any aspirations of doing something else, or growing the channel, or growing a book?
We're bringing on new writers a lot, so always testing out different people, different types of stories, different voices. Right now it's just kind of like doing more with the platform I kind of have, and if any other opportunities come along, cool. A lot of time, like, I don't really talk about any of the opportunities, because unless they actually come into fruition, it's like, why bother? But it's more like I'm doing my thing. I have a couple long-term projects I'm working on too. More books maybe, and some other stuff. And it's like, I'll let people know about them when they're done and complete. I'm not going to like tease you and say, hey, this is coming out in like 4 months, and then nothing happens.
2 years or something.
Yeah. No, I'm going to be done with it, and then I'm going to say, hey, this is done and it's out here. Whether that's like a Kickstarter or we just say it's on Amazon now, go get it. But unless it's done, you're not going to hear about it.
So one of the things that you did recently that I really enjoyed was, and I was kind of jealous that I couldn't go and do it myself. You Tracy covered the whole Ark encounter bullshit.
Yeah, so they opened up that Noah's Ark theme park in Kentucky, and my friend Tracy, who kind of runs all my social media stuff and works with me on that stuff, she lives close to Kentucky. And so she actually went there. They had a protest by atheists before the museum opened, the Noah's Ark theme park opened. And then she went inside and, did a lot of live video for us on the Facebook page. And so a lot of people saw Ark Encounter through her videos.
Crazy. I was watching some of that. And I mean, the hype behind this thing was ridiculous.
It's $100 million boat. I mean, it better be good.
And a boat that's, up on a permanent cinder block, basically.
Yeah.
And it was like, she's filming and it's like you can almost hear the crickets chirping,
Yeah, a lot of people have a lot of questions about how many people have actually attended this place, because their projections were all across the board. And my hunch is that with winter coming up and school in session, that attendance numbers only going down. So I don't know how they would ever meet their attendance projections, but they have not released any real public numbers. Occasionally they'll give out estimates to some media people, but they won't answer our questions. They won't.
Yeah, I doubt they will too, because it's too embarrassing. I mean, Ken Ham was everywhere talking about this crap, and what got me, like when she was filming inside, there was just like walls and walls of these fake crates, and they didn't, they just had these creepy animal sounds coming out of them. Just like,
I'll give them some credit. Like, she went on day one, and on day one of anything, you're not going to be 100% complete.
Yeah.
But what's weird is I'm like, it's not like this was only 10% done. This is most of the stuff that they intended to show the public. It was there, and it just didn't seem to get that much. People didn't seem very excited by it. I mean, I think there was more excitement when the Creation Museum opened, like 7-8 years ago.
Well, and the Creation Museum, I think it's all outdoors, and there's like animatronics and
Creation Museum is all indoor. I mean, I've been there twice.
Okay.
It's all indoor, but like, I think that was the first of its kind, and this was supposed to be bigger and better than Noah's Ark thing. And it's just, I'm not buying that it's bigger.
Doesn't the Creation Museum have like actors and things too?
Not live actors, but you're right, they have animatronic ones. But again, here's the thing about the Creation Museum as opposed to a real museum. The Creation Museum's exhibits are never going to change.
No.
Because new information.
The Bible never changes.
That's right. So if you've seen it once, you're done. I mean, there's nothing new to check out, which is why you see Ken Ham adding like zip lines. Like, that does not help anyone get closer to the Bible. But you have to have reason for people to come back once you've seen like the train wreck. What else is there to see? So he's like, let me put a dead body right here. It's like, yeah, no, I kind of got the gist of it the first time.
Yeah.
That's what he was trying to do with the Noah's Ark theme park. Get people to come back, do a double dip into both of those sites.
Wow.
But I'm not convinced that the
Ken Ham can do the flood archaeology skeleton recovery, dig up your own bones of dead people or something like that.
The funniest part about the Ark Encounter, by the way, is that he has an exhibit in the Ark Encounter, which here's what he wants to do. He wants to say that if you were Christian, it's not like this is a matter of salvation. You don't have to accept Noah's Ark and literal story of Genesis to be saved as a Christian.
Right.
But he says one of the reasons a lot of Christians don't buy into Noah's Ark is because they get these cartoony images of Noah's Ark with like all these animals like above board the ship. And he's like, of course you don't believe it because it looks so cartoony. And he wants to tell Christians, stop using these cartoon images and stop using these false ideas of Noah's Ark, because no wonder people don't believe it. And yet that whole exhibit basically says, this is all fiction. You can't believe this stuff. And it's like, dude, have you seen the rest of your Ark? It's not any better.
I love, he's got the dinosaurs in the friggin' cage.
Oh, yeah. There were dinosaurs on the Ark.
Yeah. Oh, one of my favorite things too, when Tracy was showing all the little cages with the creepy noises, they've got the clay hamster water bottles. Like, there's no way that anybody made a hamster bottle out of anything back then.
And for like a T-Rex, I'm sure that's how it works.
Oh yeah, well that's the giant hamster bottle. That there was a group in, I think it was Holland, and they recently built an ark that out of a barge, so it sort of kind of floats. And they're trying to get it over to Brazil, and I'd seen pictures of that. The one that what made me laugh about that, they had a giraffe on the prow.
There you go.
But so what he's saying, if we go back to the non-cartoony stuff, because Noah's Ark is a Sunday school favorite, over and over every year. So we're just gonna like show them dead bodies now. Like,
they have to rationalize. They have to work through all the questions people have. Like, how do you, if you're on the boat for, how long was it again? Was it 40 days, 40 nights? Or was
40 days, 40 nights. Yeah.
How do you deal with people going to the bathroom? All the animals having to like take a shit. What do you do with it all? How do people sleep? How do 8 people, I believe, who are on the Ark handle all of this maintenance? What happens if something breaks? What do you do? And they have to explain all of this. And on top of that, how do you fit all these animals on there?
Exactly. And I loved how on the Ark Encounter, they have like the giant, sewer thing that made no sense. Oh, we're going to tunnel a huge hole in the middle of the Ark and it's never going to sink.
Yeah.
Oh, that was brilliant.
The whole thing's a joke. But again, $100 million. And by the way, they're relying on those attendance figures to get up to $18 million back from the state of Kentucky. So if they don't hit attendance numbers, they're screwing over themselves by not doing it.
Oh, I didn't know that. So if they don't make their projections, they don't actually get that money now.
That's right. So the state of Kentucky, there were lawsuits filed over this.
Yeah, I remember.
People didn't want the state of Kentucky, the taxpayers, giving this tax break to Ark Park. But basically, it's contingent on how much attendance and tourism they bring to the state. So they have to submit attendance numbers to the state of Kentucky at some point. And they're not getting, if they're not getting those numbers, they're not going to get a reimbursement from the state. So it's kind of on them. If they think they're going to hit whatever numbers they thought they were going to hit, they're deluding themselves at this point. That's kind of why it's interesting to watch, because I thought they were relying on that money. And if they're not getting the attendance, they're not going to get it. So,
that makes me happy, because that really irritated me, because what they were doing was using their employment through the Creation Museum to kind of sneak through the religious requirements, because Ark Encounter is for profit. Creation Museum is
And they're basically saying it's a ministry, so we should be allowed to discriminate against people who are not creationists, who are gay and married or something like that. I mean, they're basically doing everything a church can do, but saying we want a public tourism reimbursement for this. And the state said yes, which is annoying. But again, it depends now. Now it depends on whether they actually hit their attendance numbers. So we'll see.
That makes me so much happier because I was really pissed when they conceded and said, oh, no, you can have them. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like that. No, but like up here, that would not happen because you cannot discriminate under any employment.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter if it's a nonprofit. If you're paying someone, there are labor laws, and you cannot discriminate based on religion in any way, shape. Like
also in the U.S.
If you're interviewing someone, it is actually illegal to ask them what their religion is.
Nice. There you go.
It is. And you can't ask orientation.
What frustrates me a lot about that is that part of the reason they set up the Ark Park in this Kentucky town, part of their pitch to the town was that we will bring all these jobs to your community. So you could allow us to come into your town and build this thing, give us the space to build it, etc. And the truth is, no, you can't get a job with Ark Encounter unless you subscribe to their statement of faith, which says you have to, oppose gay people.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Beth just asked if you had seen where Ham says that their projections are actually above and beyond.
They're not. We did the math. Yes,
Nope.
I saw it. We did the math. And here's the thing. He's assuming that the attendance is going to stay steady and go up on certain holidays, events, whatever. But again, like I said, he's using numbers as like an average from the summertime, the first year they opened. That's not going to stay. You have school going on, kids can't come. You have the cold weather, people aren't going to come. And again, once you've seen the train wreck, you don't go see it like a second and third time. This is not Six Flags where you want to ride the rides again and they have a new roller coaster next year.
Hey, they're
Ark.
That's the thing. He doesn't have any of that.
Yeah, no, I mean,
he's advertising it as a theme park,
right?
And all it is the freaking Ark.
I mean, if he was smart, he would build a water
they're not going to keep going back.
That's what I was thinking, or make it so like the Ark moves, so you're walking around and all of a sudden it pitches like you're really on the ocean or some shit like that. Like,
he may still add something like that, but it's not there right now. So again, I think when he says we're above and beyond our attendance goals, he's kind of using the highest attendance he's ever going to get and saying that's what's going to happen forever. Like,
well, that's like when they had the pre-opening where they invited all the religious people and the dignitaries and all. That was before the opening, and they shot all these aerial shots of the crowd and all of that. And then
tried to get tickets to that, by the way. They had a media day 2 days before the park actually opens to the public. We requested tickets. They said no.
And then they took that picture of the media day where
everyone's there, big crowd.
And then they used
5,000 people.
And then they tried to say that was the opening day attendance.
Right. And on actual opening day, and this is what Tracy took video of, the lines virtually empty in the middle of the day. And the park was not crowded at all. And that was day one.
And I think they
and I think Dan RL has been following it too, and like the attendance throughout the week and stuff. And there's like no one. I think the most cars they had were 64 cars in the parking lot. So let's assume 4 people per car.
Yeah,
That's not even 250.
I wouldn't be surprised if he had more cars in the parking lot, but every time you see drone shots of the parking lot,
yes,
there's more parking lots.
Yeah.
They should start building things on the parking lot.
Yeah, right.
Well, and I remember
put a slot machine. They would do better.
Casino. There we go. And I remember Tracy too. She thought, well, I'm gonna go. There's a petting zoo. I'll go see that. And like the security people even said, don't bother. There's nothing but a couple of.
It's not set up yet. Yeah. Yeah.
But in a petting zoo, like, are you gonna put some animatronic dinosaurs out there for you to
I
pet?
think they actually want to have some real animals in there to pet, but again, it's like that gets old after about 3 minutes.
Ken Ham thinks that people rode dinosaurs, so instead of pony rides, they should have like velociraptor rides.
Jurassic. I would pay for that.
Is that after it rips you to shreds or before?
Yeah. Tickets are not cheap either. They're like $40 per adult.
Yes, because a lot of the protesters said, like, if it wasn't for the fact that they were offered free tickets, they would never have paid to go in. Like, I think Tracy said that. Like, if you're going to give me a free ticket, okay, fine, I'll go in and look at your bullshit, but I'm not going to give you my money.
Right.
Which is how I would kind of feel too. Like, I would love to go and see it and laugh at it, but I'm not going to give you and that's $40 American is a hell of a lot more for me.
I would make this argument though, because I had people say this to me about the Creation Museum as well. Don't give them money. Don't go see it. I would actually urge you, if you are an atheist and you are in Kentucky or visiting that area, don't let that stop you. If you can, you should absolutely pay the money. Go to the Creation Museum. Go to Ark Park. They allow you to take pictures in all these places, and you should do it. And here's the reason why. If you can go in there and see it for yourself and understand what arguments they're using, the type of ways they're trying to manipulate you to believe this stuff, you are so much better equipped to say, like, it's BS. I know it's wrong because I've seen these exhibits. I know what they're doing. I know what game they're playing. It's a lot harder. It's kind of like someone saying, I reject the Bible. Oh, have you actually read it? No, I've never read it. No, you're more credible when you say I've read the Bible and that's why I don't believe it. I've been to the Creation Museum twice. I can tell you what's wrong with it. And if I get the chance to go to Ark Encounter, I'll go too. Because it's kind of like I said, it's kind of like watching that train crash or the car crash something. You got to see it once to really know what they're doing.
That's like why I tortured myself watching God's Not Dead, because you kind of have to.
Right? Don't just take my word for it. Yeah, go see the movie and see how effed up it is, and then you can talk about.
I want to see the second one. I can't wait to get Ray Comfort's movie, the Atheist movie. I want to see that because that guy's such an idiot.
It'll be
that's the thing. I mean, I joke with people because if anybody looked at my Facebook and looked at my likes, they think I've completely lost my mind, but I blog about the fringe groups. That's what I blog about. And the only way you can accurately, for lack of a better word, write about them is to go and listen to their stuff.
That's right.
And like you said, it's just, I mean, there's some nights, and Deb can attest to it, I just want to pull my hair out.
Oh yeah, I follow certain pastors and churches on YouTube and podcasts because you keep tabs on them as well.
It's like, I mean, like right now, Kent Hovind's in one of my targets because of his marriage to Mary Toko, and not because he got remarried, but who he married, because it falls under anti-vaccination. Well, he's got this really twisted view, and I've had to sit through quite a few videos, and one of my friends said, how did you do that? And it's like, there's a pile of hair on the floor. I mean, I did the same thing when I was researching Nephilim, but not that I could afford paying $40 to go to a.
I know. It's if you can, you should go.
It's like, I agree with you 100%.
I want to, because I mean the video of all the creepy animal noises, I would love to shoot some of that myself and be like, this is creepy fucking shit in here. And no one in that era would have a hamster bottle, you idiots.
Oh yeah.
It'd be so wrong, because I've had like pet rats over the years, and I've had lots of I've had rabbits, and I'm very familiar with the setup, and I'm like, there's no fucking way that somebody in the Bronze Age or earlier had a fucking hamster bottle. Just
I think my favorite thing about the whole Ark encounter is for a couple of years they've had these promotional posters like the Ark is coming, whatever. And the picture of the ark in those pictures is nothing like the actual ark. Because like the one in the picture is like made of wood, and it's exactly what you would think Noah would have had to do. In the actual one, obviously they have building requirements and Kentucky law, federal law, whatever they have to accommodate. But like the actual thing obviously doesn't look like Noah's Ark because you couldn't have built the thing Noah built. It's a self-defeating argument right there.
So we got a little bit of time left, and I also wanted to talk about your post from today about the Norwegian fellow, because I thought that was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, here's the story. And one of our writers, Cherry, wrote that piece. But here's the gist of that piece. This guy was dying of cancer. And so some skeptics, researchers basically said, we want to test psychics who say they can cross over and talk to dead people. Do us a favor, guy who's about to die. Write a message, put it in this envelope. We won't even read it. We won't know about it. We're not even going to open it till you're dead. So the guy writes a message, puts it in an envelope. He dies. Then they ask a whole bunch of psychics who say, I talk to dead people. What did that guy write in the envelope? Like thousands, a couple thousand people submitted their predictions. And then they opened up the guy's message, and then they cross-checked it with all these predictions. Nobody got even close to what the guy wrote.
And what I thought was brilliant was a lot
of scientific research. This was a TV show, take it at face value. But basically they said none of these people were even close to getting what this guy wrote down. They're not talking to the dead.
No, what they're doing is cold reading by proxy, basically, because what they were guessing were things like, oh, they researched him and found out he had children. So, he's given a message to his children. Right. No. Or, sort of like carpe diem. And as Beth said, what Norwegian would say carpe diem?
Right.
And things like sort of cliche things that you would think a person who is dying might write. Right. And what I absolutely loved was what he wrote. And I'll pull it up here.
Yeah.
It was brilliant because he obviously knew it was a bit of a World War II buff. And he says, 2 Me-110 Messerschmitt planes fly over Gandisfjord on April 9th, bank west, and fire on Sola Airport. That's what he wrote.
No idea what it means. It's like a World War II attack coordinate or something like that. Something random.
Yeah. And it's like... Gandisfjord is obviously a place in Norway somewhere, I would imagine, and he's talking about some event in World War II Norwegian history that it was.
And no one guessed that that's what he would say, and that's the beauty of the experiment, isn't it?
Absolutely, because if any of those people could do that, they would have been at James Randi's doorstep decades ago.
They would have played the lottery a long time ago. Yep.
Oh, well, that's always the excuse I got, that you can't use your gift for your own gain that way. But I'm like, so what is charging people to?
That's exactly right.
You may not know, years ago, I went through a ghost hunting phase.
Okay.
And the group I belonged to, we actually used to have a booth at a psychic fair.
Okay.
Like four times a year, I would spend an entire long weekend at a psychic fair with these people.
Oh my God.
I've heard it all.
Oh, I'm sure you have.
There was even a guy who said that he could read your hair.
Of course.
We're pretty sure he just had a hair fetish, and that was a way that you could grope young women's heads and get paid for it. So
I guess I should be glad that he only stopped at hair.
Yeah, he was really creepy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, really. And you can imagine he was all chasing. I'm like, nope, not interested. Bye. Nope. So we got a little bit of time yet. So anything you want to plug or talk about, or anything you want to mention before we go?
No, if you're watching this on YouTube after this, go check out Atheist Voice. There's a podcast, Friendly Atheist Podcast. And the website's friendlyatheist.com. But that's kind of all the stuff that I do in public.
Yeah. Now I know we met each other. You came up here to speak. Do you do much speaking, or is that just sort of whenever it happens?
It's a mix. It's kind of whenever it happens, though it happens in spurts. So because I coach the public speaking team, I'm about to shut down traveling for good for the next several months. But actually, I don't know when this is live. So whenever this is going up, I'll be in Alberta this weekend. Yeah, the Alberta Secular Conference. You can Google that and you'll find it. That is taking place Saturday and Sunday, and some really interesting people there. So if you're in the area, check it out. And after that, I think I'm done traveling until like the spring.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, you're one up on me. I've actually never been to Alberta.
I was told it's very cold and Canadian.
Well, I have a friend that I do another show I'm a panelist on, and I have a friend on the panel who lives in Calgary, and it's already been snowing.
Oh my God! Seriously?
Oh,
Chicago, I'm not ready for snow yet. I gotta watch the Cubs win first.
Bring your parka.
Apparently.
I mean, I was in tank tops and flip-flops a week ago, and I'm still got the flip-flops in the house. I finally broke down and put on socks last night.
Right.
Not happy at all.
Sweaters already. It's freezing out. Yeah.
Sweater. You know, it's not impressed at all. But I get down to the southern U.S. fairly regularly. I've got all kinds of friends down that way, so I actually attended the first conference in Nashville in March. It was the Nashville Nuns Conference.
Yeah. How was that?
It was wonderful. I have to say they did an amazing job. The event was in a school. We had an auditorium. We had speakers, David Silverman, who I got to meet and hang out with. But was really neat. They broke up the day with smaller workshops. Yeah. So other people who, local atheists, or I know my friend Callie Wright, who is a trans rights activist. She was able to come and do. Yeah, Callie is a good friend of mine, and she did a workshop. A lady from the area, Kate Ashcraft, she did a workshop on how to encourage voting in the secular community and how to vote effectively, things like that. That was really, really neat. But the whole thing was free. It was absolutely free. They gave us dinner. We had snacks all day. I was blown away. So,
you know how much, I mean, as someone who has, I have not organized one myself, but I've been around plenty of people who have organized it. That is so hard to put together.
Yeah. It really, really
very impressive when they can do that sort of thing.
Well, one of the organizers was Patrick Horst. He was from the Sunday Assembly over there. Yeah. And he did a great job, and I got to chat with him for a bit. And he did a really good workshop, actually, on, because everybody, we talk a lot about what we don't believe in, and then when you get asked, well, what do you believe in? Yeah. And so we did sort of a brainstorming workshop about how to address that question and how to come up with like an elevator pitch and that kind of stuff. So that was really useful too. Really enjoyed that. So thank you so much, Hemant, for coming and spending some time with us this afternoon. We really appreciate it.
Thank you both.
Greatly.
Very, very much. I know poor Beth, her internet.
I hope her internet starts working again well.
Yeah.
Someone must have hit a light pole or something in the last week, because it's been wonky all week.
Yeah, Monday night we did our show, and she was having a lot of problems then too.
No.
So. Yeah. Monday was like equipment issues out the wazoo. It was not fun. So. Updates, something updates and everything goes to shit. It's just that Murphy bastard. That's what that is. Well, again, thank you so much. Patheos, the Friendly Atheist, Atheist Voice on YouTube. Check that out. There's lots of really good videos out there. You got Twitter somewhere?
Yeah, it's my name, but you can get the link from the website.
That makes sense. Yeah. He's got a bio on Patheos. It's got links to all of his stuff on there too. Yeah, it's a good way to find it. So I'm going to close out the afternoon. Hemant, you won't have ever heard of this. A good dear friend of both Beth and I, he wrote something that's really awesome. It's The Only Creed for Humankind. Okay. And we close out our show with it every week. So we will let him close out the show as usual. And we will see everyone Monday as normal. Come on, there we go.
I know the truth and power of reason and of rational thinking, and I will use them to my advantage. I know the truth and power of educating myself and of expanding my intellectual boundaries, and I will educate myself. I know the truth and power of vanquishing ignorance, and I will reside in the supernatural or the superstitious, and of those notions or beliefs that we are not supposed to be able to explain. And I know that these rejections are necessary for humankind's survival. I am a human being with a free mind, liberated from irrational influence and from unreasonable dogma.